Happy Friday, family. This is Naturally Torah of Torah Talks. I do apologize. I did do a premiere of this yesterday, and for some reason, my video was muted halfway through. I don't know what happened, but I'm glad that it happened because I have even more information than I was giving yesterday. Now, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, I'm Naturally Torah. I've done a space about this in the past about medical apartheid with Black mothers and babies, and I also did a broadcast here. But because Professor Black Truth touched on this last week, Saturday and Sunday, I'm sorry, Sunday and Monday, I wanted to piggyback off of that because this is the real issue in our community. And I want to go over some things, some of your rights if you didn't know when you were entering into the hospital. And we're going to watch some videos of um, moms telling about their different experiences dealing with these hospitals and just showing you how they handle Black mothers. I shared two of these videos on past broadcasts, but I'll be sharing how they treat Black mothers in these hospitals, let alone the babies, and then they act like it's in the best interest of the child. They don't care about the Black mother or the child. I'm going to show some videos and some stories, and we're going to read two articles. But I'm going to share some information first. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So this here says that when cared for by white physicians, Black newborns were about 3 times more likely to die in the hospital than white newborns. The researchers found that disparity dropped significantly when the doctor was Black, although Black newborns nonetheless remain more likely than white newborns to die. Very sad statistic when you're this diabolical, where not even babies are off limits in this system of white supremacy. Babies are not even off limits. So they talk about here, this is something that white doctors said, likely to die from low birth weight and complications. I don't even like to go over these myths because, yes, there are babies, Black babies that die from low birth weights. And most of the time it's from mothers that are addicted to some type of narcotic or alcoholic. Even when mothers don't eat every day, maybe they're not in the best financial care. Sometimes their babies still come out 5 and 6 pounds, which your baby can leave the hospital at 5 pounds or more. So when they're talking about the reason why Black babies are dying due to low birth weights and prenatal care, I think that's a lie. Look at our great-grandparents back in the days. They were having 10 and 12 children. There was no prenatal vitamins. They weren't going to the doctor to see how far along they were. Most of the time, they didn't know they were 9 months to full term until they actually went into labor and they had healthy children. Some of those children are your parents today, with the uncles and aunts today. And they weren't going into the hospitals. They had midwives, people that coached them through pushing. So when they try to act like this is the reason Black babies and moms are dying, no, 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 no. The gig is up. They can stop it. They can stop it and just act like all these other ethnic groups, they're getting the best prenatal care, the best care. Our babies are born healthy. We don't have recessive genes. We don't have, the common problems as a lot conceiving children. It's only when they're at the hands of people with other agendas. There's women that are addicted to crack and other narcotics that have babies 6 pounds and more. I'm not saying that the baby's not addicted to that narcotic or don't have any long-term issues, but we're talking about death. Why our babies are dying is the question. But they don't die when they're being cared for by Black doctors and Black nurses. Why? Because when we see that baby, we see that baby as one of our own. When they see a black baby, they see that black baby as an enemy. They see that black baby doesn't have an age. That's why they can kill our young black boys like they're grown men. Because when they see black, there's no age. So this is here. It says, as both scholars 16 as the popular press 17 have noted, black newborns face starkly worse clinical outcomes than white newborns in the United States. Black newborns are more likely, twice as likely, to die in their first year as white newborns. Why? They can say this all they want. Our grandparents, great grandparents, ancestors were having babies under extreme circumstances. Babies were living, growing big and strong enough to be servants. So we're debunking all these lies that they have. And again, of course, there are black mothers that happen to die due to some complications, but we're going to get into that. So what I want to go over is just go over some of your rights as not only a human being, but a patient when you go into these hospitals. Because I'm going to show some videos and how they just totally want to take over the autonomy of black people's bodies and black babies, where they try to put us in a position that we can't say no when we can. So it says that you can say no to any medical procedure that a doctor or any medical professional deems you should have. If a doctor advises you to have a C-section, you can say no and not have the procedure if that is your wish. You can always say no. They can be rolling you to the emergency room. You can always say no. I was watching an episode on My 600-Pound Life where Dr. Now, he won't do the surgery until they get at a certain BMI, a certain weight. And this guy was doing so well with losing weight that he said, you know what, I think I can do this on my own and I don't want the surgery. And Dr. Now was like, and they do the side interview and he's like, oh yeah, well, they think they don't need the surgery. He's real cocky now. Like, why do you want him to have the surgery? He's saying he's good. Why are you trying to talk him into having a surgery? But this guy stood firm. His mom and his brother, they were a little overweight and they did it together. It's your right to say no. That's why people get second opinions. You don't have to go with what they're telling you. You can say no to any procedure. Any procedure. So a lot of people don't know when you go into the hospital, they have something called a patient advocate that you can ask for if you feel that you're being mistreated or you're not being heard by your doctor. Now, they're supposed to be the one to communicate to your doctor if you feel that there's some type of miscommunication between you and your physician. They help make appointments, things like that. But to me, they all work together. I would just say to create a paper trail, especially if you've had experiences with this hospital or certain nurses and staff in this hospital, make sure you ask for a patient advocate and voice your concerns with this patient advocate. In this here, as I was saying, you have the right to consent, your autonomy and self-determination. For example, you can decide whether or not to get an epidural or whether to accept a recommended C-section. Regardless of hospital policies, your consent is also required before any procedures, like vaginal exams or breaking hymens, all of it. They're supposed to ask you and get your consent and not just do it. But in the height of the moment, you're having a baby, they're just doing stuff, cutting, doing this, suggesting emergency C-section, because they create this panic in the labor room. My own daughter, when she barely pushed for 30 minutes, And they're like, oh, emergency C-section. They never said anything was wrong with the baby, no elevated heart rate, just emergency C-section. Why? Why would you put mom and child at risk? They don't care because they're going to still get paid for that C-section. And not only that, sometimes they get 2 for 1, baby and mom die. That's your right to say, no, I want to push. I want to try to push. I have 4 natural vaginal births. I know it doesn't work for everyone. Some people like to schedule their C-sections for any reason, but there's so many times where they are suggesting, and they say once you have one, you got to have a C-section going forward. You can't do a vaginal birth after C-section, which is not always true. And a lot of times they push these C-sections. We're going to go over the pricing of C-sections, but they push these C-sections because they're treating childbirth like productivity, like a warehouse. Okay, get these babies in and out, in and out. They don't want to spend time with a mother that is only dilated 3 minutes and she may be in labor for hours. They want to get babies in and out, in and out. And C-sections allow them to do that. Plus, they make lots of money while they're doing it. Even though childbirth is dangerous, C-sections is twice as dangerous to have for mom and baby. They take advantage that you are in a critical time, and the only thing you and dad or loved ones are worrying about is you being safe and that baby making it out safe and healthy. So they immediately tap into that fear. Oh, the baby, we have to have an emergency C-section. You have the right to say, I would like to push a little bit longer. I would like to push. That's your right. But a lot of times they take advantage of that right because they know that these people don't care. They're just taking our word for it. And they're going to go with it because they want to have this baby as fast as we want them to have this baby. So just to go over, and you guys probably can't see the bottom portion of it. I apologize. But just to go over, let me see if I can do it this way you guys can see it. But just to go over some pricing of why they love to do these C-sections, because the average, as you can see here, the average vaginal birth is 12,235, and for a C-section is 18,000. So they're getting an additional between 5,000 and 6,000 more for a C-section. Plus they getting them out. Plus they can pop out. They get no C-sections in and out. You're scheduling C-sections. They're just snatching babies out, cashing out at the risk of mom and baby. I'm not against C-section if it's really to save the baby and mom. We were meant to push babies out vaginally. And these doctors, they don't, a lot of them, I'm not going to say all of them, a lot of them don't even follow the oath that they sworn on. Not when it comes to black women and children. So, yeah, this is a money-making business, of course, but you're supposed to care about your patients as well, no matter the sex, ethnicity. But that's not happening when it comes to us when we're going in these hospitals. Because I am an insurance broker, certain times a year, when I'm selling different products, I speak to a lot of older black people that they are on several medications. When I say several, I mean 20 or 15 or more medications. Most of them don't even know what they're taking all those medications for. A lot of them have white doctors. A lot of them have told me when they tell their doctor that they don't want to take that medication, they have been threatened by their doctor that they will be dropped from care for not taking the suggested amount of medications that they put on them. Some of them taking 2 and 3 cholesterol medications, 2 and 3 blood pressure medications. Get it right with one. Why are they taking multiple? Because it's a business. Doctors and pharmaceutical companies taking 20 medications, and most of the time they only know why they're taking 2 or 3. They're like, well, this for my high blood pressure, this for my diabetes, this for my cholesterol. I don't know what I take the rest of this for, while they're tapping their insurance in these older people pockets, and they can barely live because they paying for medication. A lot of times they probably don't even eat. They don't know what they're taking it for most of the time, and been threatened by their doctors. I've had them personally tell me this, threatened by their doctors to be dropped if they do not take all these prescription drugs that they're prescribed. So I just wanted to show you the cost and why a lot of times they suggest, I don't care what they say, why they suggest C-section. They're getting between $5,000 and $6,000 more for a C-section versus a vaginal. There's another thing that they do, and they did this to my daughter when she's in there. It's very important to ask what they're giving you. Don't just sit there and they're just plugging things in your IV and just giving you medicine. You're just opening your mouth. Not Black people. We have to be in a position where we're asking questions. We cannot trust our healthcare providers that they are looking at us like everyone else, because we're the ones dying in the hospital and our children. I ask everything. Well, what is that for? Can I have some literature on what you gave me? When my other daughter was having my granddaughter, they were shooting her up, but they didn't give her no pain medicine. I was like, well, what is that? They just come in, just shoot stuff. Oh, this is B12. This B12 stuff. I'm going to show a video and why they took that Black couple's child because they refused a B12 shot for the baby. And they also was like into doulas, and they were saying that they didn't let them know that they had a baby, because they want you to bring your babies in the hospital so you can shoot them up, test them up, because they're always overly drug testing Black mothers and their babies. They have an excuse to take Black babies. So they want you to bring those babies in. They want you to come in and have those C-sections and everything else experimental that they can do to you and your child. But those B12 shots, she was shooting it. She was about to put it in my daughter's IV, and I said, well, what is that? She goes, is B12 is to make sure that the baby doesn't come out with an infection. I said, what type of infection? She said, well, mom could pass the infection. I said, well, you guys tested my daughter. Does she have this infection? She says, no, she couldn't, but this is just to prevent it. See, they talk fast to you. You could refuse this. So it says, what is a B12 shot considered? What are vitamin B12 shots? Vitamin B12 shots are a form of a supplementation that contains a synthetic version of vitamin B12. A doctor will inject the shot into the muscle. If they inject it into the vein, the body may lose a high proportion as a person passes urine. This is a supplement you could deny, but I'm just so curious why they like to shoot you up with it, because she was ready with the needle. And I was like, what is this? And I said, well, bring me some literature on it, because if the baby and my daughter's been tested for this virus or infection, you say, and she's been proven not to have it, so you don't need to give her that. She's in the middle of labor, why are you giving her this, saying, so when the baby passes through, the baby don't get infected? Get infected with what if she doesn't have it? Y'all got to pay attention, or have someone in the room with you that can, because they know you're delirious. You're not paying attention to what they're doing. You letting them do all types of stuff to you. This B12 shot is the reason why last year, and I'm going to share the story of the Black parents, why they were taking their baby, because they wouldn't let them shoot the baby up with this. You have the right to autonomy over your body and your baby. I wanted to go over this too, because I seen an article saying that because more and more people are using immunization for their children, that now the old school diseases are coming back, like mumps. They're saying scarlet fever is coming back, chicken pox, measles. If it is, you guys are bringing it back. Stop the cap. Stop the cap. Because a lot of parents is like, nah, even before COVID, a lot of parents is like, nah. So then after COVID, it was even more because I don't know what you're doing. There was so many cases where these nurses, and they were doing it on purpose, where they were shooting up people's babies, supposed to be getting vaccines, and they mix it with COVID vaccinations. We know that wasn't error. You do this all the time because if you make such a mistake like that, you shouldn't be in the hospital. You can kill someone. So it says, can parents refuse to immunize their child? For parents who refuse one or more recommended immunizations, they're telling the doctor, document your conversation and provisions of the BIS, have a parent sign a refusal to vaccinate form and keep the form in the patient's medical record. Yes, you can refuse. Stop letting these places tell you that you can't. Stop letting the doctor control the autonomy of your body. Tell you what you cannot put in your body and what you will and will not. When my customers told me that their doctors told them that they don't take all the medications, they're going to drop them. And I'm not able to give anyone medical advice or give them medical advice, but I always ask them, do they have loved ones in their family and anyone, that can go with them to their doctor's appointments. And I always tell them, make a list of all of your medications and ask your doctor, what is each one of those medications for? So yes, you can refuse it. Yes, you can say no to procedures. Like I said, they can be rolling you to the emergency room and you have every right to say, nah, I changed my mind. Because whatever they're going to do with the bill or charge you anyway, it doesn't matter. But you have every right to say no to your doctor. But when you're Black, they think they have the rights over our body to do whatever they want to they don't do this to white women. There was just a study a couple of weeks ago I seen how they're overly drug testing Black women when they go to have their babies because they're looking for an excuse. They don't do that to white women. White meth women, they get to take their babies home or they give it to a family member. They overly drug testing Black women. They overly police us everywhere. Our body, our fluids, our children, our hair, our look, our speech. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to go over, I wanted to go over that B12 just for any women that have experienced that and you hear a doctor talk about that, just to let you know a little bit more in depth about that. So, one moment. Okay, so I just wanted to read a little bit of this, and it says the vitamin B12 deficiency is a rare and treatable cause of failure to thrive and delayed development in infants. How do they know this? How do you know that there's going to be a delay in those infants? All they do is experiment all the time, and they wonder why Black people don't like to go to the doctor. What do you mean delayed development? Like I said, we have aunts, uncles, and parents that were raised 10 and 12 children. They wasn't getting no immunizations like that. Wasn't no delayed development. They're successful people now. But now, this B12. Now, I have 4 children. I invest. I don't know they was giving it to me. I don't remember this until my daughter started having babies that they trying to shoot you up with this or put in your IV. So it says, in delayed development in infants, these infants can exhibit a prominent disorder of movement, a presentation that might be unfamiliar to many physicians. Treatment with vitamin B12 can reverse all of the adverse effects, but permanent sequelae may result. Here's my thing. If you're not displaying such infection or whatever they saying these delayed developments in children, why give it to them? Because you're saying, to keep them from. See, I'm not going to say too much, but I don't really agree with that. Treatment with vitamin B12 can reverse all of the adverse effects. Okay. In development countries, the deficiency usually occurs in infants who are exclusively breastfed. Now you're talking breastfed babies, um, whose mothers have unrecognized pernicious anemia, or a vegetarians, causing low stores of vitamin B12 in the infant at birth and inadequate amounts of the vitamin in the breast milk. Well, I will say that my first child, I didn't know much about breastfeeding, and I was eating everything. I was eating cabbage, foods that was high in acid. I was eating just all types of stuff. And I don't remember this back then. All I know is they encouraged breastfeeding, but my son didn't have any of these adverse effects. And who knows if he was getting a sufficient amount or not, but I know I ate whatever I wanted back then, because I wasn't well versed in breastfeeding and, knowing that the things that you eat pass through your breast milk. But, excuse me, he didn't have any problems. So I don't know. So I wanted to go over something else here. This is another story before I start sharing my videos. Give me a moment. Okay, so I just wanted to read this. It says the U.S. infant mortality rate continued its downward trend in 2019, but Black babies still die twice as often as white babies, according to a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report released this week. Experts say the latest numbers showing little progress closing racial gaps in birth outcomes are more worrisome as the nation faces threats to maternal health care. See, I don't, a lot of these stories, they don't really dive into what's going on because they be trying to be so politically correct. And I don't agree with that because, say what it is, because it's not happening to these white women. They always want to go down the disparities. Like I said, our ancestors, great grandparents, they were having babies under the worst circumstances. Imagine back then being servants, still having children under the worst circumstances, having to be out in the field, not eating all the time, and they still had strong children. Some of those children are still alive today. They can stop the cap with these disparities, and this is why a bunch of Black babies are dying now. If they're dying due to malnutrition, I understand that. A woman that is homeless, haven't eaten, or those cases. Like I said, sometimes I've known plenty of cases where drug addicted moms still had babies and they weren't low birth weight. So we're going to debunk all of that. Again, I'm never denying that there are not situations where Black mothers put themselves in situations or are put in situations that may cause them to be at higher risk for a high mortality rate for their child or themselves. Yes, that happens, but no, not at these high numbers that our Black babies and Black mothers are dying from. So I'm just going to go from video to video, and I'm going to say fair use. And these are going to be some people sharing what they went through. So while these hospitals act like they just care about Black mothers, it's not because of us. We care about Black mothers. We care about Black babies. We're going to show some videos and show how much, these hospitals and white doctors care about us. But before I do that, what I wanted to do is, because maybe you've had an experience yourself where you were mistreated in the hospital. They were being biased. They weren't caring about what you were sharing with them, because a lot of times they don't. They ignore us. No matter how much we tell them we're in pain or this is a situation. And again, stop telling yourself because they believe. Yeah, because they believe Black people are so strong. No, they don't. They purposely do it for punishment. They've been doing this for eons, operating on us without any pain medication. They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. It's not that they don't know. So when we're expressing our pain to them and they ignore our pain in the hospitals and emergency room, it's due to systematic racism. Understand that. Don't tell yourself it's anything else. We're human, aren't we? We have insurance. Our insurance is paying for these services, right? So why don't we get the same services as a white person? Again, as an insurance broker, I also used to fill prescriptions. So in filling prescriptions, you can have a Black person with the same health issues as a white person. And monthly, they'll give a Black person somewhere between 21 and 30 pain pills, and they will give a white person somewhere between 60 and 180 pain pills. I see it all the time. No matter what the pain is, a Black person could be going through more severe pain, knee surgery. I had a guy, he fell off a ladder, broke almost every bone in his body. They was giving this guy 30 pain pills a day versus a white person that had a basic outpatient knee surgery, getting 180 oxys for a 2-month span. This is systematic. It's by design. So when you're going through pain and you're, as a Black person, you telling them that you in pain, and they always capping. They always putting Black people on step therapy. Step therapy is where they'll give you X amount of pills to start you off with, but it's to wean you off. But they already start Black people off with the lowest dosage of medication. So if they're starting you off and you're getting 30 pain pills, they're going to wean you down to 21, 15, 9, and then you get nothing. Meanwhile, white people are running rampant. And that's why the opioid problem is running rampant in their community, because they get all the pain pills that they want. I used to fill those prescriptions, so I know. But here, if you have a complaint against the doctor themselves or the hospital as a whole, staff, anyone, you can contact the board's complaint department at 1-800-253-9653, extension 501. So I'm going to go over the first video. Okay.
3 times more likely to die from complications linked to childbirth. For the women who suffer, this is more than a number. I spoke to one woman who was looking back on her nightmare delivery room experience while getting ready to welcome baby number 4.
As a Black woman, what was your labor and delivery experience?
It was very traumatic. It was very traumatic for me. I think because I didn't know how to advocate for myself. And so I was expecting those who were, the medical professionals to do the right thing. And to me, that didn't happen. I went through the laboring process for about 5 hours, contractions nonstop. And then I also have the huge blood clot that I passed, and the doctor never came in to check on me to see what's going on. And then finally, when I was ready to deliver, everybody rushed in. I was able to successfully have my son. And then after that, I just started seeing TV static, like literally everything was fading to black. That evening, I should have had a blood transfusion performed. And not until the next morning did the doctor say, oh, let's go ahead and get this done. And she forgot to sign the paperwork. So I waited 12 hours to get a blood transfusion. And therefore, I couldn't hold my child. My husband had to do the diaper changes. I couldn't bathe myself.
Did you ever get any answers?
No, the doctor who delivered my baby never came to see me that evening afterwards.
Did you switch to a Black OBGYN?
Yes, I did. We have more of a bond with each other. I feel like I can, talk to her about anything that's going on with myself, and that she's actually listening to me, and that she knows exactly what kind of care that I need as a Black woman, whether or not I need to take a baby aspirin, because of preeclampsia, or because we're more prone to high blood pressure.
Well, how far along are you this time?
I am 17 weeks, and this was a surprise. I'm going to be 42 when this baby's born. So,
wow.
Yes.
Well, we wish you the best of luck on baby surprise number 4.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're wrapping up Black Maternal Health Week, but 11 Alive continues to be committed to shining a spotlight on the racial disparities in childbirth and how to make it better. On 11alive.com/mothersmatter.
So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Just this is when they try to act like we're racism. We're doing great in this country. We're better than ever. For whom? Not for Black people, because we can't even go into a hospital and have a child without the risk of our child not making it. So let's watch this next one here.
I was originally gifted this small little plant that fit inside like the palm of my hand. I was gifted it after I lost my first daughter. And from there, as you can see around the room, it's like sprouted so many other little plants. I can share that with other people. So it's like a piece of her never dies. This one always makes me sad. These were her footprints. And here's the blanket that we wrapped her in. I always knew I wanted to be a mom. The first time I found out I was pregnant, it was the 4th of July. One day I was home, I had took a shower and I had dried myself off, and I noticed that there was a trickle of water. And after that, I continued to dry myself off, and then there was just a gush of water. And I went to labor and delivery, and I found out that I had lost my amniotic fluid, and they basically told me I had 2 options. I could either, continue on with the pregnancy, or I would have to have an abortion. And I decided to continue on, and less than a week later, my daughter arrived, and she died during birth. I feel like my experience on the labor and delivery floor was amazing. But once they kind of realized that my baby was going to come and that she was going to die, I felt like they treated me differently. I also had a nurse, and I kind of said to her, what's going to happen, when it's time for me to have my baby? And she's like, oh, your baby's going to die. You're going to deliver your baby by yourself. I still was in shock. I didn't really know what was going on. I had not called my family or anything because everything was happening so fast, and I wasn't even making my own decisions.
In 2020, about 1 out of 10 infants in the US were born preterm, or before 37 weeks of pregnancy have been completed, which leads to higher rates of death and disability.
I heard the statistics about, infant mortality, but like to live it is like a totally different experience. Like the data doesn't show you dealing with people who are cold and not compassionate in regards to your loss. The data doesn't show you literally falling apart after having to leave the hospital with something that was supposed to be an amazing moment and no one to show you how to navigate or how to move forward. I just couldn't find happiness. I was having trouble sleeping. I was having like really bad anxiety. I don't think it was simply just the loss. The experience was so traumatic that it just really put me in a dark place.
In the United States, unfortunately, we've been in the midst of a maternal health crisis. Our statistics have been shameful when we think about the number of pregnant people who die in the postpartum period. When we think about the numbers that we have in terms of infant mortality, some of the states in the United States have health outcomes that approximate countries who are low income.
Monica McLemore is a nurse scientist who conducts community-centered research on reproductive health.
We worship mothers in the United States. We push people into motherhood. I mean, that's what the whole, abortion debate is about. Oh, this is the most sacred thing you can do on this planet, and yet we treat you as if you're expendable. If you have a miscarriage in our country, you're not eligible for maternity leave. They just expect you to lose your baby and go back to work.
Something that often gets lost in the abortion conversation is the physical and emotional trauma of pregnancy in the United States, due to unsupportive systems that can leave many pregnant people feeling alone. We don't talk, for example, about the physical trauma of pregnancy. Morning sickness, fatigue, and a weakened...
I just want to stop because I don't know why, they're riding the tightrope and they're saying people, Black people. Let's talk about these mortality rates of Black babies and how Black women are treated, but they're trying to be politically correct, I guess.
Immune system. Vaginal and anal tearing, leaking, cramping, bleeding, nipple pain, and postpartum depression. People who give birth vaginally risk pelvic organ prolapse, which is when the vaginal walls and/or uterus drop toward the vaginal opening. 1 in 5 who develop this condition end up needing surgery to correct it later in life. All of that is normal. Then there are the 50,000 near misses of death from pregnancy that happen every year in the US. From bleeding, heart attack, shock, kidney failure, or infection in the uterus. Near misses are preventable but hindered by a lack of research. In the US, they're actually increasing year by year, and they're higher in southern states and for Black and Indigenous individuals. This is true for preterm birth as well, and comes down to a mix of social and economic factors, including housing, transportation, food security, health coverage, quality of care, and chronic stress.
When we talk about pregnancy, people, it's like a shortcut or heuristic where people are like, oh, pregnancy, birth, you're going to be a mom. It's more complicated than that. I kept hearing all these stories about how people felt judged and they felt stigma and shame and judgment and blame. And that's when I realized a lot of people misperceive pregnant, capable people as like vessels. Like their only job on this planet is to grow another human and birth them safely. And if anything goes wrong, it's their fault. Right? As opposed to us as a society really thinking about how are we making this impossible for people to do this in a safe and healthy manner.
After enduring not 1 but 2 pregnancy losses, Foster gave birth to a healthy baby last year. In the process, however, she developed severe postpartum preeclampsia, a serious condition that is not only life-threatening, but can also increase the risk for heart disease later in life.
Shortly after delivering my son, I just was not feeling right. My legs had swelled up really, really bad. So I had kind of said to them, I don't think something's right with like my legs. I'm also not really feeling like okay. And they kind of was like, oh, you're fine. You just had a baby. That's normal. So I said, okay. I left the hospital on the Wednesday. I'm going to say Saturday. Horrible. Like I was going down. I just was not well. I had a really bad pounding headache. Just something said like to me, I was like, if we don't leave here like now, an ambulance is going to drag me out of here. I want to say a couple hours after being in the emergency room, they realized that something was not right with me and they were running a bunch of tests. I had to be medically transferred to a facility that could better take care of me. At this point, we realized that I had about like 33 pounds of fluid that was backing up into my lungs. It was just really, really scary. After the last time I was admitted in the hospital, I had asked to speak to the director of the OBGYN floor that I had originally left. And one of the things he said was, as a Black woman, every time you show up in a medical facility, you have to be scared out of your mind. He said, because somehow we missed something. He said, you left the hospital with some of the same complaints after having your son that you've continued to present with. And we somehow missed that and we dropped the ball. And for that, like, I apologize to you.
So for me, it's this bigger discussion of let's stop blaming individuals and let's start fixing structures. I always like to give the people that I work with some piece to remember me and the work that we do, so that they know that they're part of a bigger community and part of a bigger movement that really believes in reproductive justice. Reproductive justice was developed by 12 Black women in Chicago in 1994, and it is a theory, a strategy, a praxis that really posits the fact that people have a human right to be able to become pregnant, to birth, and to have all the supports that they need in order to be able to do that with dignity. The second tenet is that they have the right to prevent and or end pregnancies with dignity, and a human right to be able to do that with all the supports that they need. That people have a human right to parent the children they already have in safe environments, in safe communities, with freedom from violence from any individual or from any government or any state. You know, the reason that reproductive health rights and justice is part of my life's work is because I was born a preemie in 1969. And it makes me really angry that our ability to improve preterm birth or babies coming too soon is no better than it was when I was born 52 years ago. Let's go find some people who had preemies and let's talk to them about what research questions did they have when they were going through it.
In 2015, this became the California Preterm Birth Initiative. Across multiple focus groups, Macklemore and her team generated hundreds of unique searchable questions that are now available online for funders, policymakers, other researchers, and clinicians.
And what we found was housing, stable housing, basic minimum income, having access to doulas and other birth workers, midwives, having team-based care, having community services in the community, having a buddy system. Like, there were all these things that I, as a researcher, would have never realized were so important to be measuring, to be thinking about improving health outcomes.
Guys, there's no need to be jealous. There's enough love for everybody. The research gaps, in my opinion, that need to be filled is the personal stories. There's a difference between, 23,000 babies die a year from stillbirth versus having a mom sit in front of you and share her experience. If this is not only happening to me, this has to be happening to other people. So I started a virtual support group for women and families who suffered pregnancy and infant loss. We share tips to empower families, and we kind of give them a little bit of homework. So they're not just leaving feeling hopeless, but they're leaving with like, okay, this can possibly help me, empower myself. And in a sense, I kind of helped teach myself how to continue to navigate the system. And that's how I have King. After the rain and the storm, there's always a rainbow.
In 2021, Macklemore and Foster were part of the team that published a paper on pregnancy and mental health. In it, they argue for policy changes that would enable care models that treat the whole person, such as those that involve midwives, doulas, and community-based organizations.
A lot of the work that midwives do in their model of care, it is really grounded in understanding that the mental health concerns of pregnant capable people are addressed. And one way they do that, they provide care in groups. They actually function from this fundamental belief that pregnant people can learn from each other.
Another initiative at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is bringing together patients, providers, and researchers with the goal of changing the way the U.S. treats new mothers.
I think what's worse than being invisible
Well,
is
y'all know
being
why I'm about to stop there. So let me stop there, because I'm just basically interested in how Black women are treated in these healthcare systems. Um, I'm going to be sharing some other statistics, just another videos, also fair use. I just like to share these because they're very informative for people that come across this video and, maybe going through this in the middle of the night, you come across this, and maybe some of these stories you've never come across before and it hit home for you. So give me one moment.
Disease Control and Prevention released 2 new disturbing reports about mortality rates for mothers and babies in America, including some stark racial divides. William Brangham explores these alarming trends.
We're going to hear from 2 of the researchers behind this new data. First, a look at maternal mortality. New mothers are dying here at higher rates than mothers in any other industrialized nation. And during the pandemic, that got much worse. In 2018, an average of 17 mothers died for every 100,000 births in America. But by 2021, that rate shot up to almost 33 mothers per 100,000. This trend was far worse for Black mothers, more than double the national average, with almost 70 deaths per 100,000 births. So what is going on here? Shauna Cox is the Associate Director for Science for Reproductive Health at the CDC. Shauna Cox, thank you so much for being here. Can you help us understand a little bit about what you found here? As I mentioned, maternal mortality has been bad in America for quite a few years, but got really bad during the pandemic. What is it that stood out to you in this?
Well, as you said, what we know is that too many women die from pregnancy-related complications
Black
each
women.
year. And the increases that we saw from 2020 to 2021 were tragic. We also know that pregnant women are at increased risk of severe illness from COVID-19, and that likely contributed to some of the increases that we're seeing. We also know that there are increases in maternal age, chronic conditions that are associated with pregnancy complications, such as hypertension, as well as social determinants of health, such as economic insecurity and housing insecurity. So all of these factors contributed to what we're seeing in increases in maternal deaths.
So the data is indicating that it was some of the social and health factors brought on by the pandemic. We're not talking about viral deaths here. We're talking about all the related things that people suffered through during the pandemic.
Yes, we have to think about all of those things. This data really does highlight the numbers. It's a canary in the coal mine, letting us know that this is something that we need to pay much more attention to and understand what the contributing factors are. So while we can't pinpoint one thing that is driving this increase, we can understand what were the factors that were occurring at this time that may have contributed to this increase.
And can I ask you specifically about these very stark numbers for Black mothers in America? As I mentioned, in 2018, they were still ahead of the overall trend for all American moms, but that trend continued and seemed to worsen. Why do you believe that's the case?
There are long-standing disparities in pregnancy-related deaths between non-Hispanic Black and non-Hispanic white women. There are many factors that can contribute to these disparities. For example, we know that there are variations in the quality of care that are received in facilities that disproportionately serve Black women, for both Black and white women. We also know that there are disparities in those pregnancy-related complications, such as hypertension. But most importantly, we also know, again, those social determinants of health also differ by race ethnicity. We also have to acknowledge that historical trauma and racism, including structural racism, plays a part in this distribution of social determinants of health and also play a role in those disparities. But I also want to highlight these factors are not always protective for Black women. For example, non-Hispanic Black women with a college degree are more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than non-Hispanic women with a high school degree. So we know that there's something specific about the experience of being Black in America that are driving these disparities.
Okay, we want to turn now to that second data set from the CDC, this one about infant mortality, specifically any sudden unexpected death of an infant. The overall rate of infants dying is at record lows, but during the first year of the pandemic, the deaths of Black infants spiked. As you can see, it's the blue line second from the top. So what do we know about why that trend is occurring? Sharon Parks Brown is an epidemiologist at the CDC.
I'm going to
Commander
stop
Parks
it
Brown,
here
thank you so
because I've
much for
already
being here.
heard this
Again,
woman.
similar.
I'm sorry, guys. And I'm not sure if she's from here, and that's not the reason why I'm cutting her off. But when she goes to speak in regards to like a birthing type of thing, and she doesn't speak the way the other woman speaks truth, that not only the disparities in our community, systemic racism. That woman that was about to speak, she was about to go on to birthing people, and lack of jobs and all this stuff is why Black babies are dying. So I wasn't going to put you guys through that, but they are so concerned, and they just love us and our babies so much, and that's why they do so much for us, right? But I'm going to share this. I shared this on one of my other videos. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, and let's see how much they love and just protect Black babies and Black mothers in the hospital. So look at how they treat this Black mother here, guys.
I'm talking right here. This is what I'm talking. So what y'all want to talk about? What do y'all want to talk about? The baby's not sitting. Look, let me tell you something. The baby does not have any drugs in his system, does he? Does he? Does he? You're gonna hurt my baby.
They care about the baby though.
Don't do that. You let go. Hey, don't do that to me. Let go. Let go of me. No. You guys, I broke a law. You guys cannot do this to me. I know, but you guys are trying to take my baby. Please let go of me. Please I'll cut back like you don't let go of your arm. No, please. Let go of your arm. I'll cut it. Please let go of me. Please let go of me. Yeah. Oh my God. I got it. Please let go of me. I can see the cuff. Go and get those. I cannot breathe. I got it. Oh my God. I got it. Please let go of me. I can't see the cuff. Go and get those. I cannot breathe. Let go of your hand. You're gonna get
It's the woman that just had a baby.
Back of my head. That's why I can't let it go. What are you doing?
The hand of bond. Got it.
Okay, now listen. Hold on. Wait.
I'm gonna play the whole thing so you guys can see, but just to let you know the outcome, this woman had no drugs in her system. The baby had no drugs in their system, but this is how Black women are treated. This is a woman that her body can go through trauma. She just had a baby. Don't tell me this is not systemic. So I don't listen to other people talking about, oh, and these disparities and this and that. No, this is not happening to white women in the hospital. White women could be junkies and they will never be treated like this in the hospital. She just had a baby. They care about that baby. That baby could have flipped and fell out of that car seat. And look at how the cops handled that baby. I'm going to go ahead and continue because I'm getting triggered.
Listen. Where's my shoe at? I have it. You need to come talk to me because look what you just did. What are you trying to take my baby for? No, you did not try to. You don't know. Because I'm so upset. They kidnapped my baby. Please. You don't understand what's going on. But you have to give me a chance.
And look who did it to her. Look who did it to her.
But you know, I don't want to go.
Where are we going?
No. Where's my baby? Where's my baby? Where's my baby? Where's my baby?
Where are we going?
These beasts have no problem kidnapping the baby. These beasts work with CPS and they kidnap Black babies all the time. That's why they specifically overly drug test Black women in these hospitals, because they look for an excuse to kidnap Black babies, because this was kidnapping. She did nothing wrong. This was kidnapping. They have no heart, no soul, no nothing, and they do this to Black women in the hospital. So know your rights before you go and you choose to have babies in these establishments, or you better find you a Black healthcare provider.
Can you let me? Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me like that. You know, see like that people? Don't talk to me like that, Mr. Shirt. Whatever your name is, I have not done that. Don't. I want you in my room. Get out. No. Mr. Cooper. Can you get him out of my room?
A pressure could be raised. Anything. She just had a baby. This person telling her no, he's not going to leave her room.
Okay.
They kidnapped this woman's baby. I don't even want to watch anymore because it's going to send me. But just to let you know how much they care about Black mothers and Black babies in the hospital, while they say there's no racism, and they just don't even know why the statistics are just so much higher for Black mothers and babies. So let's share this last video. And this is about the couple that, because they didn't give the baby the B12, this is what they did to this couple. So give me one moment.
Yeah, we're currently detained by Manatee County Sheriff's Department. We're surrounded right now by Manatee County Sheriff's Department, and that's our current situation. And they're warning us to turn over our newborn. I know we're fighting to bring Rob home. Now they're wanting to take our newborn.
Look there, y'all. Because mother denied baby a B12 shot. Why are they so determined to put that shot in the babies? You can't deny that. That's a supplement.
They're not listening. There's no point.
So wrong, Sarah. How could
You don't feel nothing?
Do you not feel anything? You guys, I'm human. This is my baby. My baby is days old. And you're taking my baby away from me. You're taking my baby away from me. You have no heart. This is so wrong.
Just give us a second. Can you give us a second?
Don't make it seem like I'm crazy, okay?
Yeah, we support. This is normal.
I know you have children.
Sarah.
This is my baby.
You may not have babies.
I carried my baby for 9 months.
This is normal.
You don't care.
Yes, I do.
You don't care. You could have talked. No, I don't. I want my baby. My baby is healthy and happy. My baby is breastfeeding from me. What are you gonna give my baby?
Please put the baby in the car seat.
Can you just give us a second? We gonna cooperate, but don't be a human before anything. We know you're doing your job, but you have some empathy.
Oh my God!
Y'all done took our son. Now you taking our daughter. You understand that, right? It'd be something wrong with us if we didn't respond.
Oh my God! I have to hold it together, right? I'll hold it together. I'm strong.
Y'all know what y'all doing wrong. It's your job, but it's still wrong morally and ethically.
Kidnapping. Look at all the white faces there. You don't see not one Black person coming to get that
That's
baby.
our attorney.
Look at all the faces. Kidnapped.
That's our attorney.
You're traumatizing my
Modern day slave catchers for our babies.
I don't even want my baby
You have
out
the
like
bag?
this. I do.
Can I see it? The pacifier?
All you had to do was call the attorney. We have all the paperwork. guys have created so much trauma. You just expect me to just come outside and be like, "Hi guys, you're my friends." You're not my friends.
You all put this much energy into a family that has no criminal background?
This is unnecessary. You know how much I've done for this county? I have the key to this city. I have the key to this city and Sarasota. I've done nothing but help this county. Manatee Sheriff County Office. I did an anti-bullying program for you guys.
Yeah.
You guys, can I sit with my baby and go with you? I'm not a danger. I'm not a danger to my baby. You're so wrong. You're so wrong. The blanket.
Family. Know your rights going into these hospitals. And like I told you about that B12, this is what it is. You're having a baby, you're going into these hospitals, ask about all this nonsense first and foremost. You're not going to kidnap my baby. They didn't care nothing about that mom or that baby, and it's always a white face. And then the black face, she's the one that called the cops because the woman kicked her out her room. So what? They came and they kidnapped that black baby like they do, and CPS works with them. That's why a lot of times CPS, when they snatch black babies, they make it very hard for the families to even bring the child in as a foster child, because there's no telling where they send out black babies. They don't even want the family to have the baby while they make up these lies. I did a program on that. Oh, black people just don't step up. They just don't step. No, they block us out. My daughter, her friend, her baby was being taken because her oldest daughter went to school and made a complaint about getting in trouble. And my daughter is clear, free, no charges, nothing. They were putting my daughter through HELL. They let my daughter keep her temporarily, and my daughter was willing. The baby was newborn, willing to keep the baby. They took the baby from my daughter, and the aunt went through the process to get the baby. Aunt's single, lives at home, has a nice, beautiful home. They didn't give the baby to the aunt. They didn't give the baby to any family members because they said no, because they may still come over there, and we know that you're going to let them see the baby. So it's best that the baby is with someone else. So they will take a baby and send a baby with someone that don't even speak English, then give it to a black family or a black family member. But this is what that B12 is. This is why they came and they snatched that baby, the other baby from that woman, for denying this. You can deny it. You can deny it. If they so-called cared about the baby, they wouldn't be putting the babies through this if they really cared about the babies. You taking somebody's baby because of a shot that they denied? Why y'all so concerned about what she puts in her baby's body? Because it's not to save the baby's life. It's in the event mom passed this infection on to the baby, or if the baby got the infection. So know your rights. Again, you could say no to any medical procedure that a doctor or any other medical professional deems you should have, especially those C-sections. This here, even though that B12 is not, they're not consider it an immunization, they consider it a supplement, you could still say no. Can parents refuse to immunize their child? Yes. You see, they don't say yes or no because they don't want to put it out there because they know a whole bunch of parents would. But it says here basically for parents who refuse one or more. It doesn't say yes or no, but yes, you can. For parents who refuse one or more recommended, the doctor have to document it. So go into these hospitals. If you don't have any Black care providers, go into these hospitals armed up, knowing your rights, paper trails. You better get information from them. You better ask them about this B12. I'm asking them, unless you don't care. If you don't care and everything's everything, then that's fine. But if you have questions, you have every right to question everything that they're putting into you and your child. And then they, my child came home and died 3 days later from SIDS, as they would say, or they would blame the parent. Know what they're putting in your kid. It's your right. It doesn't matter if they are the doctor. That's your body at the end of the day. They don't have rights over it. They do not have rights over it. If you're a prisoner, yeah, the state has rights over your body. You have the right to your own autonomy of your body. Say no. If you want to say no, say no. So I wanted to leave you guys with that. Again, this is my third time kind of covering this, and I just want to piggyback because a lot of our Black babies are dying. And, it's like another one bites the dust in these hospitals, and they're getting them in and they're dying and they're still getting paid for their services. Sometimes they're getting 2 for 1. So go in these hospitals with knowledge of your rights. Entertain doulas and midwives, alternatives. Look for Black physicians and practices. It's a shame that we have to do that since all doctors swear and take an oath, but that's where we are, people. So today is Friday. I'm going to premiere this. It's going to be premiered at 11 o'clock today, and I hope everyone have a wonderful weekend. This one was supposed to premiere yesterday, but I'm going to premiere it today, and I'll be doing 2 more back to back because I'm like 7 days behind. Been doing that birthday thing, but I do thank everyone that comes, listens. Please subscribe, like, share. This is Naturally Tora of Tora Talks. Again, take care and have a great weekend.